some of your guys were asked this week about just being undefeated and just moving up in the rankings and all this, and they were pretty quick to say that they have a lot still to work on, and that you do. I think John Molchon said you do a really good job of trying to enforce that in them, to not look too far ahead and all that kind of stuff, and knowing what is that? I guess with a game like this, where it would seem like on paper that you guys are, it just seems like it'd be a game that you guys could win rather easily, but the guys are pretty focused. And how do you kind of keep that there?
It's pretty easy to actually keep it there when you start going back and looking at the things we have to get better at. And then if you want to just watch college football, because we had a chance to do that more so far in the first 4 weeks because of our schedule, you start looking at App State beating UNC, watching UNC go play Clemson really tight. I mean, every single week, San Jose State goes down to Arkansas and plays them and beats them on the road. And so I think the reality for the players, when you think about the game and how quickly it can turn on you if you're not prepared and ready to play, and if another team is, you got 3.5 hours, and that's not enough time to make all the adjustments you need to make, and probably more mentally than anything in a game to get yourself back on track. And so it really examples of that. I think every single week you go out there, if you're not ready to play, someone's going to beat you. And it might not be the game itself, but you're going to get beat on plays. And I think our guys understand the more plays that we lose, the higher percentage we have a chance of losing the game. So how do we win those plays? How do we not let that happen? And I think our guys done a good job of just staying focused there. As far as all the other stuff, we don't control that. We control our preparation. We control how we get ourselves ready to play, and then going out there. And really, if you look at us this season, the standard of what we want to do in each area, each phase, we haven't reached that. And to me, hopefully that becomes the challenge for every player, is like, how do we get this done every single week? And we may do a better job this game. Some areas we may not do as good a job as we've done. So then you go back and you try to figure out how do we do this again? How do we improve in these areas? I think those guys understand that.
You guys have talked about wanting to get the ball out a little quicker to protect himself a little bit back there.
Yeah.
Is that mechanics? Is it decision making? And have you seen it get better, week to week here?
Well, I think it's both. I think playing that position, there's an urgency in your drop. There's timing. Football, even in the gun now, you go back to the old West Coast and 5-step drop and 7-step drop and all the timing. There's still timing. And so you've got to throw on time. You got to have a rhythm to what you're doing, and then at the same time, decision making, seeing what defenses are doing. Defenses are a lot more complicated now, and I think anytime you have a young quarterback, they're going to give you a variety of looks, pressures from this side, showing one side, spinning coverage. There's a lot of things that he's had to see on the field. So in our schemes and our protection and getting the ball out, it's a combination of all those things to really help yourself. And that's something you watched even with Brett and all of our quarterbacks over time. You see, there's an easier throw, you take that. You got pressure, you take the quick throw to get the ball to your hands. It's just truly understanding that every single play and seeing what you're getting, where's your quick throw, how do you get the ball to your hands. Sometimes it's a throwaway. Sometimes the defense has you and you're in a position where you don't want to take that sack, you don't want to get yourself out of field goal range, you just throw it away. And there's opportunities for that too. So it's just every single week, right? Paying attention to, all right, what do we do? What's coming? What are the answers? And trying to go out there and execute it.
A lot of the big hits he's taken have been, delayed blitzes or stunts and things like that, where guys maybe aren't coming from where he expected at the snap.
Right.
Is he in a position to even see that, or is he looking downfield at the receivers and not necessarily see the sort of the late changes they're making?
Yes and no. Yeah, there's a few that we should have seen, and there's some that teams have done a really good job. You're seeing defenses are doing a good job of twisting guys. It's not always the pressure. Sometimes it's the D-line twist. It's not just linebackers coming. I think that's pretty obvious. You see backers hitting it. You're under pressure. You got to get the ball out of your hand. Sometimes it's a D-end coming all the way around, and sometimes they've wrapped all the way from one side to the other, and you're looking downfield, and they get to you. So it's a combination of defensive schemes. It's a combination of seeing the pressures, getting the ball out. Obviously protection, being able to pass all that off. If they're just twisted, we should be able to pass that off up front and getting better in those areas. But all those things, that's all the factors that you got to pay attention to as you're trying to improve in that area.
You look at, since you've been here, I don't know if this is just coincident or not, but when it comes to your running backs, once the calendar flips from September to October, their production increases quite a bit. Is that coincidental, or why does that maybe happen? Because it has been every single year you've been here.
Yeah, I don't know. More protein we're feeding them. I don't know what it is. We'll get a little bit colder. We try to get these guys a little more fuel for that reason. But I think it's I think as the season goes on, you start to get into a groove a little bit. Early on, you're playing 2-3 guys, then you start to play 2, and then one's getting a little bit more. So I think you get into a little bit more of a groove. And not just the tailbacks, but the O-line as well. O-line gets into a groove, you start getting your run game. We talk about it, right? First 3 games, you don't really know what you're going to get. Everybody's trying to figure themselves out. You think you have this system, and even if you've been running it for years, you still are seeing how your players are evolving. And then probably by game 4, 5, and 6, you start to settle in, and you start to become who you are, and that's the run game. Hopefully, if you're a running team, you start to get dialed into what you're doing run game-wise. And I think that's probably where our guys have gotten better. We're going to run these schemes. We're going to run it this way. We're going to hit these holes. This is where we anticipated. This is what's happened the first few games, and they get into a better rhythm.
With how you guys use Chase against Air Force, what did you see from that? And is that a work in progress, or is that kind of how you want to utilize him?
Well, we want to utilize him. Yeah, we'd like to get him in the game. We'd like to get him in a sequence. There's a few plays you're going to, just like we do with other personnel groups, right? Bring a quarterback in, let him run a play, take him out. For him, he can go in there and operate. So let him, if it's a first down play, let him go to a second down play, let him go to a third down play. And we could have done that in the last game. We could have just left him in on the third down. We transitioned back and forth. So if we get into that, he's rolling a little bit, let him go out there and just execute the plays. And then, we'll switch personnel, and if Hank comes back in, we'll do that. But you'll see Chase come in there for plays. Jalen will come in there for plays. I mean, we'll do things like that, like we do with other personnel groups, because those guys deserve to play. And how do we get them in the game? But Chase is, he's improved himself, and he's proved himself too in practice, where he's able to go out there and operate. It's not like he can't operate a third down play or a fourth down play or whatever we need to do. He can do all those things. So we get him in. It'd be good to get him a little bit more, get him in a rhythm a little bit. Gives a little bit different look to our offense as well when he's back there, and I think that gives us an advantage.
But with John Molchon, being a captain and going back to playing Vegas, I was doing something on him this week. But just to be a guy that has played 3 different spots already and and I don't know how much say he had in that, but to give himself up for the team and play 3 different spots like that and do whatever's needed. What does that say about him? And I guess the start to his senior year.
Well, that's what a captain does, right? And really the versatility. He's able to play tackle, guard, all the other positions. We can bounce around left tackle, right tackle. That's because of his football intelligence, because of the type of player. Now, he didn't really have a say, but it was more like, we'll do whatever. He said, I'll do whatever we got to do to be successful. And he knew what we had to do when guys got injured. And, hopefully we get that line back to what we had in the first quarter and a half of the first game. We can get John back out there, get Ezra back out there, get John Molchon back at guard, and we can get back into that lineup right there. But having guys like that, and he's not the only one. You could have done that with Cavedo. You could have done it with Larson. You can move guys around. Kekani comes in, Stets comes in. So I think we showed some depth at the O-line position. But having a guy that can do all those things has been exactly what we needed. And a captain, that's what you expect from guys like that. Whatever it takes, there's no like, hey, that's my spot. He just moves around and does what he's asked to do.
How much do you think that'll help the run game as far as if you get all 5 guys back? Do you think that'll be a big jump for the run game?
I do. I think it'll help the run game. I think it'll help our protection. Because again, those guys, they've had so many reps together. I know this season they haven't, but leading up to it, they did. And so all these things that we're talking about, a twist or how to block a certain scheme, they've done it more together through spring, summer, and fall camp. And then everybody's back to their positions. Everybody's back to what they prepared for, what they mentally came into this season to play. And if we can get that done, I think we'll be better up front.
You guys are, obviously when October hits, temperature dips, it's cold outside. You guys are back inside today. It's supposed to be pretty nice.
I can't win with the weather. You know what? I mean, we really kind of changed it up a little bit. We'll have it a little bit hotter in the indoor today, but then it's the nicest day out here on the blue. So guys are kind of looking at me, and I'm like, whatever. You know what? Hey, we could have been out in the blue today. We had a little frost the other day, but we'll be outside. We're playing outside. We'll be outside today. We wanted to heat it up a little bit. Vegas is going to be a little hotter than it is right now. So, and also this bye week, we've been on the blue. We've been on the grass. I think sometimes just changing it up a little bit and creates a little different energy, a little bit different focus.